Hey everyone, welcome back to the Sheena Show. You can see that I have a guest today. It's a special episode. I wanted to bring on Mélissa from Chronic Letters because she has honestly one of the most inspiring calligraphy stories I've ever heard. She's overcome, the most legit, reasonable sounding, medically backed objections for why you can't do calligraphy. And she's doing it anyway, and she's thriving in it. So I'm going to introduce her really quickly and then kind of just let her tell her story. I hope this will inspire people who are really curious about calligraphy, but are scared that it won't work for them. Okay. You got to hear her story. So Mélissa, hello.
Hi.
Mélissa is a beautiful calligraphy artist. She owns the business Chronic Letters, which is a calligraphy business. She lives in Ottawa, Canada, with her husband, her 6-year-old son, and a 5-month-old puppy. And the cool thing about Mélissa is that she has this business. She just started calligraphy about a year and some months ago. So right now it's August 2021. Mélissa picked up a calligraphy pen in March 2020 and then started her business in July 2020. So not only, just like 3 months after she first learned calligraphy, but in the middle of a pandemic. So that's amazing thing number one. Amazing thing number two is Mélissa is doing all of this while battling and raising awareness for multiple sclerosis, which she was diagnosed with in July 2018. So she's doing all that. She's got her calligraphy business. I can't wait for you guys to meet her and get to know her a little bit better. So Mélissa, thank you so much for joining us. Why don't you just kind of tell people how you got into calligraphy? Tell us your story.
Yeah. So first of all, thank you so much for having me here. I'm excited to chat with you. So like you said, I picked up a calligraphy pen for the first time in March 2020, right at the beginning of the pandemic. And I did that after months of trying to find a creative outlet to help me kind of process my diagnosis. Before calligraphy, I tried knitting, I tried baking, blogging, and just nothing was really sticking. But then I was always intrigued by calligraphy, but I was scared that I wasn't going to be able to do it. And we can talk a little bit more about that. But I just decided, let's just try it and see what happens. And and that's kind of how I started. And I just got absolutely addicted and started practicing very obsessively. But I was having fun. So, and especially like at the beginning of the pandemic, I kind of needed that outlet of kind of turn off everything else that was happening in the world. So yeah, it was good timing for me to start, for sure.
Okay. But also kind of wild that you just went for it, because tell us a little bit more about MS and how you found out and how it impacted your life.
Yeah. So I'm going to explain a little bit very short what MS is, because some people don't really know, and it affects a lot of people. So my immune system is attacking my central nervous system, and it's damaging like the spinal cord and in the brain. So my nerves and my brain don't communicate always like they should. So anything that your nervous system is responsible for can kind of go a little bit wonky. So basically everything, every function of your body. And every person with MS is affected very differently because it depends where the damage is occurring. It's going to trigger different symptoms. And when I was diagnosed, it was flagged as aggressive. It had actually been active for a very long time without us knowing. So I have a lot of existing damage along my spinal cord and in my brain. And one of the early attacks that I had after my diagnosis affected my hands a lot. So I have a lot of nerve pain in my hands. I have hypersensitivity. Like sometimes it feels like, it's going to sound gross, but that I have no skin. So it's like, exposed flesh.
Yeah.
That's what it feels like. Obviously, like my hands are not hurt. And I don't sometimes like I don't have the same uh, control of my hands that I normally would. And I shake. I shake. Some days are better than others. Like some days, my hands just shake a lot more than I would like them to. So I thought that, like I'm never going to be able to do this like delicate, fancy art form that like, it looks like you have to be so precise. And I'm a perfectionist at heart. So that's kind of why that I like, I was hesitating. But I remember early on, I was either watching one of your videos or like taking your because you have a free like workshop that you help
Mhm.
people discover a bit more about pointed pen. And I heard you say that, if you're shaky and like, because you were talking about like what you can do to kind of reduce the shakiness. And of course, I was paying a lot of a lot of attention to what you were saying. And you just said like, if you're trying to eliminate all the factors that you can control and you're still shaking, like just embrace it and make it part of your style. And that's when it clicked that I was like, okay, like this chick that is like really awesome at calligraphy is saying that I can still do this. So let's just trust her a little bit. And so I just decided to go for it
Wow.
and try it and like
Yeah.
fell absolutely in love with it. And I'm glad that I pushed through it. There are days that like I pick up a pen and I'm like, nope, no, today is not a good day. And
Yeah.
I just put it down. And there happens to be a lot of other things that you can do when you have a calligraphy business that is not like
Yes.
you picking up a pen. So
For
I focus
sure.
so I focus on that and or rest. And yeah, I just respect the pace that my body can do. And
Yeah.
yeah.
Wow. Okay. Because that's one of the questions that I get so often is just my hand is shaky, or I don't trust that I can make such delicate movements, or even my handwriting is bad is a version of like I can't do it, right? It just seems out of reach.
Yeah.
And the fact that you tremble because like your nerves are actually just not communicating with your brain right, and that you can still do calligraphy anyway is kind of remarkable. Like, what do you think
Thank
is
you.
is happening there with calligraphy?
Um, so I funny story, my neurologist, because of course I'm being followed by a pretty awesome medical team. But when I told her that I started doing calligraphy and I showed her my work, like she all but did a happy dance in the office because she was so happy. Because practicing my fine motor skills is the absolute best thing that I can do to try to maintain the levels that I have.
Oh my god.
So it's like it's good for that. It's also good for my mental health, because like when we look at calligraphy videos online, people, if you don't know this, oftentimes they are sped up really fast. We actually go really slow when we do calligraphy, and you have to focus on your breathing, and it's very relaxing. So it's like meditative in a way, like yeah, in a lot of ways. And so she was just like really, and it like gives me something to focus on. I'm not the kind of person to just be at home and be on medical leave and just not do anything with myself. So it gives me something to focus on. So she's so happy that calligraphy is in my life, and she like supports it 100%. So
Oh my god. I have to get a tissue. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm not joking. I kind of like I teared up when you were saying that. It's good for you because I have a friend with MS. Actually, I know a few people with MS. It is kind of an invisible disease because it just shows
yeah,
up so differently in each person. And the thing that she says is the hard the hardest to deal with is you don't know how it's going to progress, and you don't know how to keep how long you're going to be able to keep with function you do have, and just it looks
Yeah.
different for each person, and like I can't imagine that, and it
Yeah.
just
Like I've often defined it, like I explain it to people that because I don't look sick. Like someone sees me, I don't look sick, but it's like I'm living my life with a time bomb in my head. I never know when it's going to go off. I never know if it goes off, what kind of damage I'm going to have. Like I could wake up tomorrow and not be able to see or not be able to walk. Like I never know what's going to happen. And like I'm stable. I'm on a lot of medication to kind of keep it under control, and so far it's working. But I never know what's ahead of me. We Nobody knows what's ahead of us, but like I have this thing that I know is doing damage in the background. So
yeah. Oh my God. But you're right that I don't want to, like just focus on like because like if you did, you could go down a rabbit hole. But the thing that I pull out of this is like, you kind of have it more as like you actually might have, you have this thing that you can kind of see happening. But all of us, you're right. It's just an illusion that we have 40 years left and we're going to like die at the age of 85 in our beds. We all hope, right? But we
yeah.
actually don't know what's going to happen. So I wonder if that's actually a part of why you went for it and like you started a business, even though you've never run a business before.
Like I just decided, like when you are forced to kind of pause everything in your life, um, and just like I had to go to therapy to kind of learn to process everything, but it gave me a lot of time to reflect on what I was doing with my life and where my priorities were. And I was very career driven. I was like dedicated, and I know you can relate to that because I know your story. Um, and I was just like, I'm giving so much of myself to the point that I'm like, I was convinced I was making myself more sick because like I was pushing so hard. I was like, I just want to be happy and do something that makes me feel fulfilled. And yeah, like having a creative business. And even before I discovered calligraphy, I remember telling my husband because I knew I didn't want to just like rely on my long-term disability for the rest of my life. Like I want to still do something.
Yeah.
But I was trying to figure out like what can I do? What can accommodate the fact that, I'm going to have a bad day and I need to rest sometime. And I also want to be happy. And I was telling my husband, I was like, if I could have like a crafty type of like, I didn't know what I wanted to do, right? I was like, if I can like just knit all day and like sell that, but I know you've tried that too, and it
Yeah.
like
It's very repetitive.
yeah. But and I was like, maybe I'll like start making jewelry and just like do that all day. And I'm like, I just want to be in a studio and just be happy, like create all day. Um, so just like when I found calligraphy and like really fell in love with it, um, I knew very early that I was gonna like, make this a business and yeah, just one to share it with everybody else. Um, but also because like I just absolutely love it. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. So tell us about chronic letters. I can't wait to hear, I mean, what you started with, how it's going, all of it. It's what, a year and a
A
month?
year and a month.
A
Yeah.
year and a month. Okay.
I've done a lot of exploring in terms of offerings. I started with like small little custom pieces. I have like actual products that I sold. I did a collaboration with a jewelry business local to me. I've started working with some wedding pros in my area for the first time. I've like explored engraving wood burning. Like I've touched a lot of different things, but I
Yeah.
think part of it is, especially when you're starting, for me anyways, I wanted to see like make myself different from, there's a lot of calligraphers in my area, so I wanted to be different. But also find like what I like, what
Yeah.
my like clients want to see from me. So I've explored a lot of things, but it's been really, really fun. Every time that I get a good feedback from a client, like it's so rewarding just to like hear someone say that. Like even the other day I reposted a picture of a piece that I did for a client, and she just messaged me and she's like, I'm looking at it again, and just like the details that you put in, she's like, I want to cry all over again. In a good way. So like hearing that, it's so rewarding to be able to do that for people.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and we're gonna put some of Melissa's work in the show notes, and then link to her Instagram and everything. It's Chronic Letters. I will say it again at the end for sure, because you have to go follow her. But like her work is your work is amazing. You would
Thank you.
never. You're like I'm like shaky hands. What? Like, how? I mean, because there's flourishes and it's just beautifully consistent, and just yeah, you're definitely developing your own style, and like you have these like unique offerings. It's really really cool to see. And
Thank you.
that sounds very familiar, like with my own journey of like you have an exploratory phase where like,
Yes.
especially if you've not run a business before, and especially when you've come from like a high pressure, just 9 to 5 or maybe 9 to 9 work environment, right?
Yeah,
Like, how are you supposed to know? Like, you don't go into business being exactly sure of exactly what you're going to offer and knowing exactly what you like. Like, how could you? So this exploratory phase
exactly.
is like absolutely necessary. That's so
Yes.
cool. So
Yes.
what did you do when you were first starting out? Let's throw some business advice for people
So
wanting to do
so
the same
first of
thing.
all, you need to start like putting your work out there. You need to, and that's what I started doing even before I was ready to say like I'm open for business. I started sharing on my Instagram some pictures of what I was doing, just like, hey, here's like this new hobby that I'm, and I know it can be scary, but like we're in a calligraphy bubble. We see a lot of calligraphers. The people that are in our circle, like our friends and family, they don't know a lot of calligraphers. So whatever you're doing is going to be very, yeah, it's like
Amazing.
very impressive.
Yeah.
Yes. So like nobody's going to see that it's not like, perfect or to the level that you want it to be. Everybody's going to find it absolutely beautiful. And that is going to be encouraging to just keep going. So that's how it started, really. I just had to start sharing my work, and I build up some samples of different things that I could do. Some little place cards, some envelopes. I had like some. I would take like a picture of the baby footprint, and I would like recreate that with calligraphy with like the baby name. So I did like a sample of that, just so that I could have somewhat of a portfolio.
Yeah.
And you don't need a client to build your portfolio. Like, be your own client and just make up things, right? It can be
Yeah.
pretend. So I did that to take pictures and have something to show. And yeah, as soon as I said like, I'm gonna be taking orders, like it came pretty quickly, and it was somebody that I knew but wasn't like in my like immediate circle. Like it
Mm-hmm.
was a warm person in my circle, not necessarily someone that I talked to all the time. That was my first client.
Yeah.
And that is like, that's a high in itself. Like it's very fun to have
Yeah.
someone that wants your work.
Yeah.
And I've heard you say this before, but like as soon as someone says, and that's the thing, somebody had told me, I'd posted a picture of an envelope, and somebody said like, oh my God, like I would totally pay for you to do envelopes like that. Like as soon as somebody starts talking about that, even if you don't feel ready, it means that,
Mm-hmm.
you can start.
Yes. Yes, absolutely, for
Yeah.
sure. Like, okay, so many good nuggets in what you've said, but what I hear is that like you put yourself out there and
Yeah.
not just on Instagram, but I assume like you told people. It's like, "Hey, I'm taking orders. This is what I'm doing." And then you really everybody who's listening was like, how am I going to get clients? Who's going to want anything? Like you would be shocked at who comes out of the woodwork. And you're right
Yes.
that it might not be like your sister. It might
Yeah.
be an old college friend or a coworker, a past coworker that you have. But like, people need calligraphy and want calligraphy for more stuff than you think. So, okay,
Yes.
so that was how you just started out. Um, how about this, like distinguishing yourself? Am I even saying that right? Distinguishing. Sounds funny to me
Standing
now.
out from the
Yeah,
crowd.
standing out from the crowd. Thank you. So you kind of knew that was also something you're like, okay, how can I stand out from other calligraphers?
Yes. So in my city, there are a lot of calligraphers. Um, Absolutely, like amazing pool of talent. A very tight knit community too. Thank
Mm-hmm.
goodness. Um, Everybody's really nice and supportive, but like they have more experience than me, and you know, a lot of them you look up to them. So first thing I had to do is realize that, you know, they're not like we're not in a competition. Rely on my style and what I can do, and it's different than them. And you know, people are going to be drawn to me for what I can do. I
Mm-hmm.
guess try to stop comparing yourself is the number one thing that you
Yeah.
have to do. Um, and then yeah, my style was is really something that differentiates me. I've had people tell me that they see my work and right away they can tell that I'm the artist behind it just because of the style
That's
that I do.
awesome.
Of course, like because I've learned from you, I can adapt and do different styles, right? And I know it's a powerful tool. So I do different styles, but what I'm drawn to and what I do a lot of, like if I'm left to my own artistic kind of free reign, then of course like I have a signature style that I'm
Yeah.
drawn to.
Yeah.
And it's
Okay.
very different. It's very different. So that's,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. So for everyone who I also get this question of like, isn't the market just saturated? Aren't there too many calligraphers out there already? How can I possibly get in now? There's new calligraphers entering all the time and being successful, and it, that doesn't have to stop you. Okay. Proof. Proof.
No, and like your pool of client is not necessarily only local either. Like, yes, there's physical products with calligraphy, but like you can ship things,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
So, and with online now, like you can be seen by so many people. Like,
Yeah.
yeah. And
Absolutely.
people, if you like, obviously, I've done my research and I'm priced like fairly for the market of where I am. So, people that come to me as opposed to another calligrapher in my city, it's not because of price, it's because they want the type of work that I do. Um,
Okay.
which
Awesome.
is
But
also very important.
the last thing that I kind of wanted to ask you about is something I heard in your story is that you have taken advantage of your local connections and kind of like connecting with people in around you. So can you tell us, give
Yes.
some advice for people around that?
Yes. So networking with like I found my people within the creative community. Um, and I quickly decided to go to so there's a Rising Tide chapter in my
Mm-hmm.
city. So I'd heard a lot of like other artists local to me talk about it in like YouTube videos and stuff. So I decided to go, and I met so many awesome people. And I met many of the calligraphers through there. And I just built relationship, and I decided to approach people in like, even though I had less experience, that like we're both people, we're both equals. Like I don't have to feel like, you know, don't put people up on a pedestal.
Oh, like a
Um,
colleague. Yeah.
exactly. And you know, I just approach people in like, you know, I'm gonna start talking to you like we're friends. And if, you know, if we vibe, we vibe, and if we don't, then it's fine. But you know, I've met so many amazing people, and a lot of my work comes from just relationships that I've built
Okay.
since then.
Yeah.
So
Okay. Which is like not a surprise to me because you're like networking is so powerful. And I know it's like kind of a nasty word and can seem really icky. Um, but you can do it in a really genuine and fun way. Cause like how cool is it to
yes,
connect with other people, other like women who are just starting their businesses too. And they're going through the same thing you are and trying to get off the ground. Like it can be really, really awesome. And you can make some amazing relationships. Okay.
yes, and like the people that usually go to these groups are the people that want to support other
Mm-hmm.
artists, like especially like something like the Rising Tide. People that go there, they like it's because they want that community,
Yeah.
right? So you're gonna find very helpful people and nice people. So
Yeah.
yes.
Okay. So just a bunch of like really good, like starting your business advice from someone who is like a year in and still going strong. And what's coming for Chronic Letters? Can you give us a little
Oh
like what
man.
you can see ahead for the future?
So one thing that I really want to do, I kind of want to extend a hand to people that are like thinking about starting their business but don't really know where to start. So eventually, I would like to put something together, like a resource to help them start. I've already started a little bit with that. I've created like a PDF document with like some tips, some project ideas, some calendar of like, right now I'm starting to think about like what I'm going to offer for Christmas, and it's August, right? So it's like
Yep.
all things that like the first time around, if you start thinking about holiday stuff in November, you're kind of too late. So just little things like that to kind of
Mm-hmm.
help out. But I really love doing that. So I want to keep doing that while still getting more experience. I started like I said, I started wearing, working with wedding professionals in my area. So
Yeah.
that's one thing that I'm really excited to start doing a little bit more. Um, but yeah, that's kind of where it's
What's
going.
coming? Okay.
Yeah.
Amazing. And we will make sure to include like all the links that Melissa is mentioning. And I'll ask you again at the end just to like say where people can follow you and find all your cool shit because there's a lot of cool shit. But I did want to ask you, okay, let's kind of go back. So that's where you're going with Chronic Letters. Let's go back a little bit to when you started calligraphy. And can you tell people about how you actually learned so quickly? Has
So I
something to
learned
do with
from
me.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah. I bit the bullet and like just enrolled in Modern Calligraphy 101. I think like your enrollment was closed, and I remember messaging you and I was like, I want in, and you graciously let me in.
Oh my
But
God. Good thing I did.
yeah. Um and I think it's like 8 weeks kind of that you break it down, but I did it in 4. I was literally obsessed. And the way that you explain everything, you break it down into so like simple, manageable steps, and all the practice sheets that come with everything and the videos. It was just perfect for the way that I learn. Um, so yeah, that's kind of why I learned so quickly. But I practice every single day.
Yeah.
Um,
But that's really impressive. I mean, you literally started in March and then opened a business in July. So, like 3 months. I mean, y'all, this is possible. It doesn't take like
yes,
2 years or whatever. I mean, you really can start before you feel like you're fully ready, and people will love your stuff. It's like so, so cool. Okay. So, Melissa, have you made back your investment in Modern Calligraphy 101?
I had made back my investment within like a month and a half, I think. So
Oh, wow.
yes,
Okay.
yes,
Cool, cool,
definitely.
so cool. I mean, it's
Yes,
totally, I'm going to toot my own horn for a little bit. It's totally worth it just for the experience itself of learning and getting all the resources that you get and like doing something that you felt like you couldn't do and feeling confident in it. But also, a really cool side benefit is you can sell your stuff and people will want to
yes.
buy it. It's like really, really awesome when you do something
Yeah.
you love and people are like, oh, yeah, here's money. Like,
Yeah. And
what?
like, you don't need to, you can start doing calligraphy with the only intention of doing it as a hobby. Like
Mhm.
just the benefit that it has on my mental health, 100% worth the price of the course. Like,
Yeah.
you know, I decided to turn it into a business, but even if I didn't, like there are hobbies that are so much more expensive than that. And like you don't even need expensive, fancy schmancy tools to do it. You
Hmm.
can like start with a pencil. So like it's no,
Yeah.
110% recommend it.
And your doctor would still be doing a happy dance that you're doing it because it's good for you and it's good for you all out listening there in ways that are really immeasurable. And it's like really hard to put a dollar amount on, which is why,
Yes.
you know, we don't. But yeah, I mean, priceless.
Yeah.
It sounds cliche, but really. Okay.
Yeah,
So I want to
exactly.
make sure, Melissa, is there anything that you want to tell us about that you want people to know about? Are there like cool resources that people can grab? Where can people follow you? All that jazz. Give it to us.
Yeah, so my website is chronicletters.com. On Instagram, I'm at Chronic Letters. On my Instagram, and I know you're going to link to it in the show notes, I do have a resource. Like I mentioned, the PDF document, it has a mindset piece because mindset is a big thing in like just starting to put yourself out there, some do's and don'ts of starting your business. I have over 100 different project ideas that you can try and sell, and also like a month kind of project calendar of like what kind of you should start thinking about and market and that sort of stuff to help out. So that is free, and you also get to receive weekly emails from me that I share some behind the scenes that happens. I've shared like red flag client stories and
Ooh,
like that sort of thing. So I kind of lift the veil on what is happening in my business and what
yeah,
I learned, because like I'm not like 10 years ahead. Like I've just been there.
yeah,
So I find sometimes it's less intimidating to kind of hear stories of someone who's like just a few steps in front, like not like in a completely different sandbox.
yeah,
So
yeah, yeah. No, no. It's absolutely. I
yeah,
was going to say that exact thing. Like me giving business advice 6 years in is totally different from someone who is like on the ground with you just a few steps ahead. Because I don't
yes.
remember a lot of like, it's, you're so in it, right? Your first year that it's like, it's so hard to even get your thoughts together on what has happened. So the fact that you've been able to do that is actually super valuable, you guys, to really hear from someone who is a few steps ahead of you. It's so doable. That's the message. With MS or not, whether you want to make a business or not, whatever objection you have where you think you're not going to be good enough at it, you don't know until you try. And then actually amazing things can happen. So I hope that that's kind of, if you get anything out of this, there was some amazing business advice, like, but like what I hope you remember is that it's absolutely possible and it's absolutely doable despite like the fears and objections in your head. So Melissa, Chronic Letters. Chronic is CHRONIC. Letters. Follow
Yes.
her on Instagram. Download the free PDF where she has all that amazing business advice. If you're thinking about just getting started, it'll be super helpful. And thank you. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story. And just, I think you don't know how many people
Oh,
it's
thank
it's
you.
going to touch and like really really help. So
Thanks for
thank
having
you.
me.
Yeah, and we'll be in touch. I'm
Yes.
watching you. I'm so excited at all the things you do, Melissa. All right,
Thank you.
thanks. Okay, isn't Melissa's story just so amazing and inspiring? I hope what you got out of that is that any objection you have about whether you can do calligraphy, you can probably overcome. If Melissa can, then you can. You know, after we hit stop on that recording, Melissa and I were just kind of chatting about, you know, her life and how her business is going. And she really told me that truly calligraphy has changed her life. Taking one course changed her whole life for the better. And that's amazing. Like, that's why I do what I do. So if that sounds really inspiring, if that catches your eye, if calligraphy is something that you're curious about, the course that Mélissa took, Modern Calligraphy 101, is currently open for enrollment. If you're tuning into this episode when it comes out, it's open for enrollment through Friday, October 8th, 2021, Friday morning. So basically it's open for this week, but the doors close Friday morning. You can go to crookedcalligraphy.com/101 for Modern Calligraphy 101, crookedcalligraphy.com/101. I hope you will check it out if Melissa's story gave you some inspiration and hope for what calligraphy could add to your life, because it truly is more than just pretty letters and squiggles on a page. It's the transformation that can bring about in your life. And I hope that Melissa's example was just a beacon that shows you what is possible when you follow something, a creative path that you're truly curious about. So once again, that's crookedcalligraphy.com/101. Modern Calligraphy 101 is my signature beginner course that teaches you pointed pen calligraphy from the very beginning. So if you've never held a calligraphy pen before, it will teach you exactly what tools to buy, how to use them. It's a full, supportive 8-week curriculum with everything you need to succeed. crookedcalligraphy.com/101 if you're interested. All right, I will see you on the next Sheena show. Stay on that crooked creative path. You can totally do it.